I'll go with the middle.
Hey, fantasy football fans, you're back with Mike and Tim talking again. Tim and I have been sitting here discussing some quarterbacks and wide receivers and how much the passing game is evolving over the last, I'll say especially the last 5 years, but over the last 10 years, how much the passing game has evolved. We used to be fantasy football. It was make sure that you drafted running backs sometimes as much as your first 3 picks.
Yes.
The passing game has evolved so much now, though, that we're just looking a little bit into when you maybe want to look at some quarterbacks and receivers now.
Because a lot of them top quarterbacks can almost carry your 2 running backs.
Because we figured we would talk about quarterbacks, we had to represent quarterbacks today. Rhino, you want to help them out with that?
Oh, I'd love to today. Because I am a Peyton Manning fan. I will go ahead and say that. But I'm supporting the new Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning, and hoping for a good year from him. And Mike, the Commissioner Dotson, has supporting the Patriots quarterback Tom Brady.
I really could have made it without you putting my name into that, supporting Tom Brady, because everybody that knows me is going to be shocked to know that I'm wearing Tom Brady today.
But with Mike and Tim talking again, we're here for fantasy football. We are fans of football. We support all players, no matter we really like them or not. We give them credit where credit is due.
And I'm taking one for the team, and it may be your team to wear this today when I talk about Tom Brady. But we're going to be rating the top 16 quarterbacks in our opinion today. But before we do that, the more we talked about this, and it definitely grabbed our interest to know how much has the rules impacted the passing game and why the passing game is where it is. Because when we look back over the years, as far as 25, even 35 years ago to today, the quarterbacks didn't just get that much better. The quarterbacks didn't become that much taller, that much stronger, that much more accurate. That's not the reason for the increase, because the defenses has kept up.
Yeah. By me looking at this, I've never really been a big Dan Marino fan, but it really gave me, I wanted to give Dan Marino some credit today where his credit is due, because what he done in 1984 is special. He come in, not knowing quarterbacks throwing, not hardly any throwing for 4,000 yards, and he comes in and throws for 5,000 yards. I mean, just how great was that?
And when was it, if we go back, it was before Dan Marino that the NFL technically put in the rule that you couldn't contact a receiver beyond 5 yards.
Yeah.
Do you have that year?
Yes, I pulled that up. That was in 1978, and that's another one I was really surprised on. In 1978, that many years ago, they put that rule in to where a wide receiver couldn't be contacted after 5 yards.
But I think because, of course, everyone who watched football through the 80s and early part of the 90s, that rule was not enforced. Guys were being mugged when they were running routes. I mean, guys knew that the big hits were coming. They knew that there was headhunters out there in the secondary for the defenses.
And that's too. And then I think that's why, in 1996, they kind of brought that rule back up. They emphasized on it more, wanted referees to watch that more, because, they want this league to get to where, they can see more action downfield.
The whole idea of the 4 to 6 yard run, hammerhead up the middle, wasn't gaining the interest that the NFL knew that the 40 and 50 yard deep passes was going to.
And I'll credit to the NFL for these rules changes too, because I really think it's made the NFL grow.
Yeah, we're not in no way. The rules we're about to talk about is in no way to say that the NFL's done anything wrong. It's not to say that the rules are wrong to protect the quarterbacks the way they do. It's definitely made the game more exciting. We're just going to show you real quickly how those rules have come into play to help get the passing game to where it is today.
And it's another one of my rules. I pulled up here in 1995 was when the communication with the quarterback on the field and the sideline was brought in. That was rules put in. Quarterback had somebody right there in his helmet at the line of scrimmage, letting him know what they thought was going on. And I think that really helped the passing game a whole lot in quarterbacks.
Let's jump into the last decade here, over the last 10 years. What were some of the rules put in that's been in place specifically to protect the quarterback?
Well, in 2001, they brought a rule in just, protecting the passer more. Brought that up to referees, to help protect this passer. In 2006, when the defense was prohibited from hitting a passer in the knees or below the knees unless blocked into.
Dropping back into some stats during that time, and I'm going to go back to throw a couple. From 1982, the league leader in passing in 1982 I think it was Dan Fouts, 2,800 yards, led the league in passing.
2,800 yards.
2,800 yards. Now, the quarterback rating that led was 95.3. You didn't have one quarterback to throw for 20 touchdowns that year. 17 led the league. Now, if we move ahead,
Before you move ahead, do you think? I mean, made me think. Do you think Tim Tebow maybe could have played quarterback in that era?
no. Tim Tebow, there's nothing that would help Tim Tebow play quarterback. He'd have been a good lineman. He'd been a good defensive.
But I think you could have thrown for 2,800 yards at that time.
Well, I probably could throw for 2,800 yards. If Tim Tebow could throw for 1,200, then that means I at least get 2,400 because I could double that dude in passing. But back to what we were saying here. In '82, you had 2,800 yards to lead the league. Now, jumping ahead, I'm going to jump ahead 20 years, 22 to go to 04. Dante Culpepper led the league, 4,700 yards. Okay. I'm going to jump us on up to 2011. Last year, Drew Brees set the new passing record at 5,476 yards. Almost doubled the yardage from 1982. And that's not because, again, that quarterbacks just got that much better. It's to do specifically with the rule changes put in throughout the last decade that have been there to help quarterbacks.
And a lot of that, too, is really not just the yard. I mean, the yards went up, but touchdowns also went up.
But I will say this. When you look back over the last 35 years when passer ratings hovered in the mid-80s to today, and you see a continued growth each year to a 122.5 passer rating today.
Well, and two, you got to look at me. I think even, that's good too because defensive backs have got faster, bigger, stronger.
So it's not a sign that quarterbacks have not just evolved, that they're so much greater. They didn't become that much more accurate, that much more stronger. That's not the thing. It's just this is to clearly show that the rule changes have impacted.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
No,
I mean, it's more excitement.
It's exciting, especially for us fantasy football fans. We love to see the ball in there.
We like scoring.
Especially if you have that quarterback.
And the NFL knows they need scoring. The more people's watching, the less people is leaving games early.
That's like even Drew Brees knows that. He could be up by 45 points and 2 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. I guarantee he throws a touchdown.
He is throwing the ball.
He wants fantasy points.
He's attempting it. It's like you can see when Peyton Manning had his big year. I guess that was about 06 or 07 there. He had like 48 touchdowns. Then you seen Tom Brady come out trying to chase that. Drew Brees then wants to beat Tom Brady. Now Aaron Rodgers wants to get in on the mix.
And they're going to be chasing it. They're wanting that.
And again, we're not putting down the quarterbacks and the rules protecting the quarterbacks because it does make it more exciting. It's just to show, though, that the rules have definitely impacted.
You think that NFL's grow big? You think that's maybe what's helped it still grow big? People really like to see this exciting passing game?
The excitement of the pass and the touchdown. I mean, there's nothing like, when the NFL looks at this and they say, do we want to see a guy run the ball 6 yards up the middle and trying to hammer out a first down, or do we want to see the quarterback drop back and throw it 60 yards for a completion for a touchdown?
I want to see that play action, and I want to see that man going down the field for 90 yards.
And that's the excitement. So we're not putting it down at all, but we just want to make sure we show that that's the reason why you're seeing the passing game evolving the way it is and becoming so important in your team's success, is that you do make sure you land a good quarterback as well as some good receivers now versus 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when running backs still had the big emphasis on running game for your team. Now it's moving into the passing game.
Yes, it's moving into the passing game. It's getting to be more of a passing game too, with fantasy football. So taking those quarterbacks and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, but still you can't take away from that running back either.
No, we still got to have them. So therefore, we're getting ready to get into do some rankings. We're going to rank our quarterbacks, running backs, and what we're going to do with our quarterbacks is we're going to be ranking these guys 1 through 16. We're going to give you our top 16, and we're going to do that in 3 parts. So we're going to count it backwards, and that'll be coming up in our next episode. If you got any more questions, though, on anything that you'd be interested in knowing rule-wise as far as how the NFL operates, send us a message. Let us know. We've had some good questions come in. We had a question from another person, and I don't remember their name right offhand. We'll get to that in that episode. But they ask about the salary cap and how the salary cap works in the NFL. And I like that question because there's a lot of people who get really confused. It's so it can be a very complicated system. Some teams will backload contracts. Some teams will front load contracts. It depends on what that team's salary cap is and the situation they've got as to how much money they have. But we'll get into that more in detail in another episode. But until then,
This is Mike and Tim talking again.